On this episode of No Sugar Coat, my guest is a true pioneer of the culinary world and the self-described super bawarchi who paved a way for women chefs in a male-dominated industry. Ritu Dalmia is the co-founder of Diva Restaurants with locations across India, London, and Italy that has now expanded to a worldwide catering service as well. How do you strike a balance between being a chef and being a business person? Let's find out from Ritu. Thank you so much for doing this. I am very nervous.
Can I tell you, if I wouldn't do it for you, who would I do it for? So don't say that.
Thank you. So I was doing all this research, and one thing that really stood out was that you said you started learning to cook by a Tarla Dalal book.
Which is true.
Yeah. And
I'm damn proud of it.
So did I.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I knew you were a good girl. I knew you were a G. Look, the thing is, everyone today thinks about all the fancy books. I don't know how old you are. I'm 50.
I'm 36.
Okay, you're a baby, so you're not that generation. But my generation, or let's say the time when I was growing up, you got all the fancy cookbooks. It's not that you didn't get them. I mean, you would go to Bahari Sons in Delhi, or you would find. But the problem was, you would read words like Maldon salt.
Exactly.
You would read Swiss chard, and you would say, amazing, but what the hell is that? And Mr. Google wasn't there to help us.
Yeah.
And where the hell to get it from? And coming from a Marwari household, the Madus, they all had Swiss accounts. So they used to go foreign trips and learned how to eat a little bit of continental food.
Continental.
Exactly. Continental being. And you come back and you want to try the same thing again at home. But so Tarla Dalal, from that point of view, for me, is the queen of cookbooks in this country. Because right from her early books, I still remember.
My mom has all of them.
Yeah, so do I.
I grew up like flipping through them. And
absolutely. So it wasn't only Indian food.
Everything.
And pan-Indian.
Yeah.
Also, now everyone's talking about this regional cooking. And people are talking, let's talk. But Tarla Dalal used to put that together in her books way back in the 70s.
And easy to follow.
Yeah, totally.
Easy.
And you know what's my favorite recipe from her book?
Macaroni with baked beans.
How do you know that?
I know, because I did my research. I got it all here.
A ring of macaroni with baked beans and a little Amul cheese and a little. Can I tell you, the taste of Amul?
Yeah.
No one else can beat it.
Not sponsored, guys.
Okay, I'm sorry. The taste of Indian processed cheese is so unique and so amazing. You can't beat that one. So I have to admit, Tarla Dalal, and there was this other set of books which was called Pak Pranali. You would not know it because it was a, thing for Calcutta Marwari households. So there used to be a club called Jyotirmay Club, which actually sponsored these books, which I think the first one was published in 1960s. And again, it was for the new brides, for them to help tell the cooks, not that they were cooking themselves, to tell the Maharaj
how to cook
or what to cook. So I still remember recipes like vegetable crusso, which was a fried piece of bread with bechamel and vegetables thrown in, again gratinated in the old-fashioned round ovens. And I'm talking of the 60s.
Yeah.
So again, I have the entire set. And honestly, I cherish them. And
so when did you start cooking?
Okay, my memory says it was 10. My mother insists it was 9. Okay, so, but she's prone to exaggerate. But for me, it was always because I loved looking at food pictures and I loved trying them out. And my father used to travel a lot. My mother used to travel a lot. Every time they would come back from their travel, I used to wait up like a goody gumdrops, with a 3-course, 4-course meal, which used to be things like macaroni with baked beans, of course, and serve them course by course. They never had the heart to tell me they had just come back from dinner and they had to suffer that entire. But for me, it was really, I can't explain to you. I don't think I ever played with dolls. That is also quite obvious. For the only 2 things I love to do as a hobby, you may call it whatever, was reading and cooking. I never thought I will take it as a profession, but obviously.
So that's what I want to ask you about, right? Because I also started baking when I was very young.
Yeah.
And it all started with, my bua making brownies one day. And she said, for me, it was the joy that that food brings in general, and baking especially. And that's what got me started. And even back then, like being a chef or making this your profession wasn't really a career option.
For me, my career at that time was very planned out. Wharton Business School.
Wow.
Okay, becoming a business tycoon, being in the Forbes top 10 list, having a pink helicopter.
But this was your idea?
This was my vision.
Your vision
my family's vision was very clear. Get married at 18. Okay. But they were so shit scared of me that I don't think they asked me even once.
Yeah.
If that was an option or something I would like to do. So when I was a kid, it was the, right thing to think about as, coming from a business family. But there's something called destiny.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I look back, I don't think I could have done anything else, because doing what I do, and I'm sure it's the same for you, sometimes you feel guilty. Sometimes you feel guilty that you're saying you're going to work, because what you're going is going to have fun.
Yeah.
And you get paid for it as well. In the non-pandemic time, of course.
Yeah,
but
I was just going to get to that. I said, I used to really feel that at the start of my career. And I felt that I almost felt like play.
Yeah.
And it was like, going to work, because I didn't look at the things that didn't interest me.
Yes.
So the business part of it or the finance part of it, I just was like, okay, not this. But everything else, I did feel really guilty, because I was like, I'm just meeting people, I'm having fun, I'm doing all these collaborations. Is this really work? And then...
But, then you're blessed, like we all are.
Yeah.
People who can still enjoy their work.
But it comes and goes. And now I feel it's in phases where I have to do certain things.
Honey, that's called growing up. Okay? So this will...
I feel like I should lie down on this couch now.
Yes, I charge by the hour. All right? But look, anything, whatever we do in our life, it has to have its phases. If it doesn't have its phase, we won't even appreciate it.
Exactly.
I mean, you say you were only interested in the cooking part of it. Yeah. My problem was I had the genes and somewhat inborn thing for sense for numbers. So for me, it was always a fight. There was a devil and there was an angel. They're both fighting, the business part fighting against the creative part. So every time...
Who wins?
There's a balance. Sometimes now I've learned how to manage the two children quite well. One day, one person gets a lollipop. So just to give you an example, every time we make a restaurant, the chef in me wants a fabulous kitchen. The chef in me wants the fanciest equipments. The chef in me wants 35-40% of the space as kitchen. The business person in me says, what bullshit? All right? I will never make money. I'll buy all these fancy equipments. I'll never get the spare part. So I have learned to find now a balance between the two.
So obviously these things come with time and with lessons learned. So can you take me back to your first restaurant?
Oh, my partner's somewhere listening. And the minute you've asked this question, I'm sure she's giggling inside, because she says, you are so boring. Why do you always have to talk about that first restaurant, Mezzaluna of yours? She says, everyone talks about it. If it was so well known, why the hell did you close it? So that's a question.
Why did you close it? Why? Maybe it's too ahead of its time.
Yeah, technically, I didn't close it. Technically, I sold it. Okay, and ran away the next following day before he changed his mind. But yes, it was way before its time. It was way ahead of its time. People didn't know Parma ham. People didn't know gnocchi. People didn't know ravioli. And also, when we opened...
What made you want to open this specific restaurant?
Okay. Very long story cut short. My dad shouted at me at work. Okay. And...
So you were working in the family business?
I was working in the family business, selling marble. And one day he shouted at me in front of the entire office. And without even thinking twice, I quit. Without knowing what the hell am I going to do. I have no degree. I have no education. I have worked with him for a few years. And what will I do? I won't even get a job of a driver or a peon because I was a 12th pass. And a very dear friend of mine, who was also my mentor in a way, Sarah, who used to live in Italy, also was my machinery supplier, with whom I had a blast for years, saying we are on a marble trip, business trip, but eating our way through Italy. She said, you can cook quite okay. Open a restaurant, open an Italian restaurant. Wow. So it was the first Italian standalone restaurant in India. As I said, an idiot. Okay,
I can't even imagine how hard it must be to source ingredients.
I used to go with suitcases every month to Italy, fill up my suitcases, come back. Why do you think the restaurant failed? There was no way I could sustain the cost. Yeah. Another great trick. Those days, diplomats were allowed to bring in X amount of food. So every guy who is to come to eat at Mezzaluna, I used to say, please get this ingredient and I will give you those many free meals. So by the end of it, I was only giving free meals to people who were getting me ingredients, or all the profits and the sales were going into the flights, going to bring in ingredients. But my ego wouldn't allow me to use nothing but the best oil. My ego wouldn't allow me to use, anything but Parma ham. Of course, things like that don't work. It doesn't make money. But I learned many, many lessons. And if I was to do it again, I would make the same bloody mistakes again because I don't give a shit.
I love that. And so the decision to shut it, was it
to sell it?
To sell it, was
because I wasn't making money, number one. Secondly, I was 22 when I sold it. And I'd run that for 3 years. And again, I was a very egoistical person that time.
What was it like to run a kitchen back then?
What was it like? Humiliating to begin with.
Why?
Because again, I had no experience, but I knew I could cook well. So my entire brigade of chefs at that time, every time I would tell them that the pasta is overcooked, they would start laughing at me.
What do you know?
Okay. And no one would look at me in my eyes when they used to talk to me. They used to always, and I could never understand it. And I realized, number one, I was a woman. Number two, I was not from the hotel industry. And number three, I was very young. Now, in hindsight, I have to forgive them because I would have the same biases as they did. But it was humiliating. But by the end of it, honestly, most of the people who started working with me in Mezzaluna continued working with me. And some of them are still here with me in Diva. So I don't think it turned out so bad after all. You know,
like people keep asking me every time I speak to anyone, they ask me the same question about what is it like to be a woman in this business.
I love it.
No, yeah, I mean, as do I. But it's
Did you have any problems ever?
Again, I started when I was very young.
Yeah.
And I never knew whether it was because of my lack of experience or because of my gender. And I was so young and naive and just so focused on just getting the job done that I never really paid attention. Now when I think back, I was like, oh, maybe this is why and this is what happened. So in retrospect, yes. But I never let it kind of
affect you.
Affect me
so
in a way.
For me, as I said, the only problem I had was in the beginning. When Mezzaluna started, when my chefs thought I was... But I have to admit, overall, maybe because I was always a very overconfident human being, a bit too confident for my own liking. In some ways, being a woman helped me also, because the abusing level was much less in the kitchen. Okay, because they were too embarrassed about it. Every time I had to get my license renewed for the restaurant, at least I didn't have to wait for 6-7 hours and also, sir, de do na, sir, de do na. But saying that, I think kitchen is a very hard place for women. And I see that with the young colleagues who are working now. And I've also learned to be a little bit more sensitive towards it. If you had asked me the same question, let's say 10 years ago, I would have been very brash about it, because also I think it was more a point that I needed to prove. And I used to always say women need to be treated, if they want to be treated equally, they need to behave equally, they need to work those many hours, they need to do all. But then, you realize as you grow older, My life was different. I didn't have children. I don't have children. I'm not navigating a home life and a work life.
Correct.
While most women who have kids, who have families, who also, they work double the amount of any man does. Yet more is expected out of them, and they will always be one level less. So, yes, I was very lucky that I did not have to navigate that in my life, but I see that happening around me all the time, all the time. And I hate to say it.
But what is the shift that you're seeing over the last, say, 2 decades in the industry? Are you seeing that change? Are you seeing...
So I'll tell you, where you mean where women coming into work situation?
I mean,
or
it'll be both. Like one, first part can be women, and then second, just how has the industry changed?
Okay. So when I started Diva, we had no women. Except me and my younger sister who used to work in the front of the house. We were the only 2 women. Every time we would hire women, either the families would ask them to quit, or they got married and then they quit, or they couldn't cope up with the late nights. Bombay, ever since we've opened in Bombay, I see there's a huge cultural difference between Bombay and Delhi. So in Mumbai, we have a lot of young girls who are in the kitchen as well as in the front of the house. You won't find that in Delhi. In Delhi, front of the house, you won't find women. And I think it's mainly also because the family does not support it and there's no dignity about it. You know, logo ki jhoothe plate uthaugi. That is the first comment that comes in. But saying that, today we have about 6 women in Motodo. We have 5 girls right now working in our bakery. And no offense to you at whatsoever. Please don't kill me for it. I don't understand why every woman wants to be in the bloody bakery. You know, whoever we introduce, what's the food part that you would like? Bakery. I always think it's the smell of sugar and chocolate and strawberry. But
I see a shift there as well. Like when I was in culinary school, I was the only Indian student in the whole school.
Yeah.
And obviously I was doing pastry. But now every time I go back, it's like classrooms full and both like cuisine and pastry. And it's wonderful to see.
So, sweetheart, you're seeing it now. So they will come into action in a few years.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm already like over the last 4-5 years.
Yeah, but mainly maybe in Bombay, like I said, in Delhi, there's still a huge difference. In Europe, I mean, forget about just India. I mean, if you look at worldwide statistics, there are no more than 4% women in kitchen. Okay, which has gone up to 5.5% in the last 10 years. So it's very small growth. Industry, how I've seen the change happen. Oh dear, my God, that's a difficult question.
Like I need a tequila shot.
Yeah, I know. So, as I said, Mezzaluna time, I was smuggling in ingredients. Okay, today I'm spoiled for the choice of it. 25 years ago, for me, getting foreign vegetables was quite exciting. Foreign meat was very exciting. The shift now that has happened is discovering what you have within rather than always looking for this. 90s, there was no international food, okay, when I started my career. 2000, the first decade, everyone went crazy after I want Mexican, I want Japanese, I want Chinese. And there was a mushroom of it. Unfortunately, 90% not so good. And over the last 20 years, we've seen a nice sifting happening. And today, I would say you can get as good a Japanese that you would eat anywhere else internationally. Italian goes without saying. Look at these macarons. Why the hell should I go to Paris? I mean, I will eat them here. And what's amazing thing that's happened in India, what's the shift that's happening, just the way with ingredients, it's the same way we have started looking at our cuisine as well.
Exactly.
Which was so badly needed. Still a long way to go. Many so-called regional restaurants have come in. But I think there's so much more that needs to be done on that front. And I see it happening.
And what is it about Italy that made you... Is that a too wide a question? Because if you start asking
I have
for
a very
Paris-
simple answer for it.
Yeah.
In my last life, I was an Italian. Okay? It's something I'm carrying out from one life to another.
Do you remember your first trip or your first
Of
experience?
course, I do. Absolutely. I was 10-year-old, school trip to the Vatican, 1 month in Rome.
Wow.
And the last day, when everyone else was at the airport to take a flight back, I went and hid in the toilets, hoping they will leave me behind. So, no, it's really, I cannot explain to you. There is the only connection or the only reason I can think of is there's a connection from my previous lives. Every time, I mean, I've been going now to Italy for 40 years. Every time I go, I still find something new. Every time we say we do this trip, that trip, I end up going back to Italy. And there's a sense of comfort there. There's a sense of belonging that I have. And it's not because over the years, it's a sense of belonging I've had from the first trip. It's a sense of belonging and comfort with the first spaghetti tomato that I ate. It wasn't foreign to me. It was like almost comforting. And even today, I mean, one of my comfort food is just a simple pasta with tomato basil sauce. And so there is no other explanation.
Yeah.
And I don't
No,
want...
I feel the same, like for me as well. Like Paris does that to me.
Oh,
and
wow.
Everyone asks me, I said, I can't explain it. Like
Yeah.
I have a ritual, when I like land in Paris, the moment I get out of the airport, there's that first initial, you just go, and it feels like a coming home of sorts, and
absolutely.
And exactly like when I was done with school, I wanted to stay back as well because, and then obviously my mom, she's like, I'm flying there to get you back. I cried so
I wish you
much.
had known me then. I would have told you 10 tips to escape. No problem whatsoever. And you were younger. I mean, you're 15 years younger to me. I would have just told you to come quickly to Italy and I would have hidden you with the mafias. All sorted out.
All in good time. We shall get to that as well. So just going back to the career graph, we started with a restaurant in Delhi, then moved to London.
And then moved to London. 4 years in London. So if I look at it, started with Mezzaluna when I was 19. 22, I sold the restaurant, went to London because I thought I was too good for... People didn't appreciate me in Delhi enough. And London was going through that phase when this whole mushrooming of amazing restaurants was happening. Don't forget, again, you're not the generation, but before the 90s, London used to have really crappy food. London was never the London that it's now.
Today, yeah.
And Indian restaurants in London meant only Bangladeshi restaurants, where you only went when you were completely drunk and you wanted a cheap £5 meal, what you would call a curry and a lager. That was the time. And just 94 or 95, 94, I went to London to open Mama, which was an Indian restaurant. And before that, the only restaurant worth its salt was Chutney Mary, which was a more Anglo-Saxon, more Anglo-Indian sort of a restaurant. That period that when we opened Mama was the same time when Chor Bazaar suddenly opened, Vineet Bhatia opened. So it was a complete revolution time, not only with Indian food. It was also the time of Hakkasan. It was also the time of, amazing Japanese food. Because let's face it, English food was never anyone talked about. And if you'll see, all the countries which have really poor food are the first one to embrace international food. Whether it's United States, whether it's UK, whether it's Australia, whether it's New Zealand. And the countries which have rich cuisine are always the last to embrace, so you will not find international restaurants of that quality and caliber in France. You will not find it in Italy. You will definitely not find it in many. So that's why India was also quite late in embracing international food. So when I opened Mama, it was the right time. So the wave had just begun, but I was homesick. I was 22. I was a brat.
What was it like to run a restaurant in London?
I was broke. I had put all my money there. People would come, say, sign us a check. I would sign a check knowing it'll bounce back like a rubber band.
So what do you do at a moment like this? How do you...
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
You don't know who you're talking to. Okay, I'm a superwoman. I'm a Wonder Woman. Okay, at that moment,
I want to know what is this? What goes on in your brain when you're
this
faced with a
this
challenge?
too shall pass.
No, I'm gonna tattoo that on my
Yes.
wrist for sure. But in Portuguese,
Yes.
yeah,
In
that's
Italian, it's passera, passera.
in Portuguese it's isso passa, and that's what I'm gonna
Yeah,
get on my
okay.
wrist. Yeah,
Yeah, this too shall pass. So I have a very strange way of dealing with stress or situations which are tricky like this. I just go full on without giving a shit how it'll end. Because at least I know I've given it my best shot. And then what happens? I can't. Of course, I'll suffer later. Once I've done it, then I get into a complete dump, a complete low. I go through the complete emotional menopausal wave, whatever it is. But at that moment, it's almost like
no fear.
no fear. And this, I think, has been my biggest strength and my biggest weakness in some ways.
Are you very spiritual?
I'm getting more spiritual as I'm getting older. Yes, I am. But I think this no fear has been there from day one. As I said, I still remember when I told some of my friends, I was 21 that time, that I'm moving to London to open a restaurant. And I remember some of them were laughing in one corner. She's so full of bullshit. I mean, really, she's not saying she's going to open a... And when I did it, they still laughed. They said, we really thought you were trying to show off and trying to be this hero. You know, at 21, I'm going to go. But for me, it was like, without knowing what was going to happen, to go live on... And let's face it, a Mardu girl, brat... bought up, didn't even know how to wash clothes, didn't know how to clean homes. I don't still know how to drive. And
I don't either.
Yeah, good. See, all like mine.
Oh my God.
Okay, so going that, and they were, like I said, I mean, I laugh about it and I say, I didn't have money to buy grocery in London that time. But a cleaning woman I definitely had once a week, okay? Because I just couldn't get my... So it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
It got me my confidence back that I had it in me to do it. But I was homesick. I was really homesick. And the weather didn't quite meet my temperament. And I just needed to prove a point. And
it was done, and then you moved back.
It was done, dusted, came back, opened Diva. 2 years, tried to run both London and Diva, and I realized I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I sold London to my business partner there. And rest is history, my darling.
What history? After achieving so much, right? Like this,
achieving so much?
Yeah.
I've just begun.
I'm taking notes. Tell me that how do you interpret or how do you respond to the title of celebrity chef?
I hate that word.
Yeah, why? Tell me.
Because honestly, what is celebrity? Do you say a celebrity artist? Do you say a celebrity dancer? Do you say that for anything? So I don't understand why chefs need to have the word celebrity added to it. Firstly, all of us are cooks. Let's get a few facts sorted out. Okay, chefs are people who never move. Okay, I have reached that point in my life where my stirring of spoons is getting less and less. But actually, I really detest that word celebrity chef.
But there was a time in India when there was the rise of the celebrity chef.
So listen, I'll tell you what. So again, yes, there was a time where chefs needed to be given their due and recognized as a talent, as an artist. When I had Mezzaluna, I remember people used to come and offer me jobs to come and cook in their home. And they used to say, 10,000 rupees salary denge or rehne ko kamra denge. Because for them, anyone who cooked was your domestic staff per se. Okay? So I used to always laugh and say, I'm very happy. Mera boss bahut acha paisa deta hai mere ko yahan pe. I don't need to go. So 2001, 2002 is when I think, and I have to admit, Veer Sanghvi was one of the first person who started talking about chefs rather than the restaurant. Of course, in the beginning, it was all hotels. Because as I said, in India, because we have so much domestic help available to us, that someone who cooked was always considered as a lower class, bawarchi, someone who worked at that recognition of talent was not there. So from that point of view, yes, they needed it and they should get that, But what I don't like is why is the word celebrity? What does celebrity got to do with, as I said? So to me, when I hear the word celebrity chef, to me it sounds like someone who only goes for openings, who only cuts ribbons, who's only there.
But that's also the misconception. I have so many kids that come to me and they say we want to be celebrity chefs. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. So as I said, so I don't understand.
It's like 1 or 2% of actually what.
And honestly, if someone is like me, and you may not believe, but I'm actually a very shy person. I don't even like to go any place where I know there'll be more than 30, 40 people. I will not go. And if I go, I will hide in one corner. So that is a misconception. This glamorous life, let them work for bloody 1 year. They will know some reality checks. I've had so many interns who have come.
Yeah.
In 4 months, they've realized, chef, this job is not for us. It's not for us.
There's another question I want to ask. I'm not sure how to frame it because this is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit.
Okay.
Now, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years.
Okay.
And I started with this hustle.
I met you, darling.
I know,
when you just started. We met at Guppy.
Yeah, it was so long ago. And there was this hustle and this drive and this thing to do new things and constantly do new things. And then you reach a stage where you're like, okay, now I have to figure out scale and actually how to grow the business. And it becomes more about the numbers and all of that. And then you realize there's so much new stuff that comes up and there's, younger people that have come in that are hustling as hard. And you're like, I just don't have the energy to keep doing the same thing that I did when I was young. I've done it. I've got the recognition for it when I did it. I was like, do I need to keep still playing that game of, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, then if I don't, does that mean that I will be irrelevant? And what is relevance? So those are some of the things that I've been going through. I don't know, is this something that you ever think about?
Firstly, you have no business to think about these things. Okay? You have no business. You're bloody 35-year-old. All right?
Yeah.
You still have a few more years of hustling left in you. And creativity is not something which comes and stays forever.
Yeah.
It comes also in its phases. Just when you think, okay, maybe I don't have the energy to hustle or come up with some new laboratory style desserts or something, something will come and hit you. Okay? And you'll do it. Do I think about it? I don't think about it. I've done it. Okay? I really, in the last 4-5 years, for me, okay, let's start with the thing. When I started my business, my biggest fault, which stayed with me for many years, was I was a control freak. And I was a micromanager. Again, a good bad Marwadi trait. You can be very good with that and you can run one restaurant beautifully well. Can you be in 2 places at the same time? Can you micromanage 2 places? You cannot. You have to let go a little bit. You have to start building trust. You need to start believing there's someone else in your organization who actually could be even maybe better than you.
Exactly.
It's very difficult, trust me. It's very easy to say
I didn't believe in the power of processes.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not, and now I see it and I'm like, oh my God.
So it was a constant process for me and I've done it. So now my life is a lot easier than what it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I'm not at the restaurant 7 days a week. Because don't forget, if you don't put in some balance between your private life and your work life, anyway, you'll be burnt out. So what are these processes? They mean nothing. Your relevance, it means nothing. You see, there's a Pooja Dhingra, okay? But there has to be your desserts. Your company has to be just a little bit more than just Pooja Dhingra. And that is once you set up, you will be revived. You will be full of new energy, new ideas, because then you're concentrating on what you love at your pace. So it was difficult for me to let go to a certain extent. I mean, I'm still here today doing the new menu trials, but I'm not going and screaming and shouting in the kitchen. I'm sitting on a table. I'm letting the chefs present to me first and then giving my feedback and comment rather than going and trying to do everything myself. So, yes, and as I said, you don't have any business to say,
No,
but I really, I mean, it's shameful. I'm speechless about it.
No, I think it's just thoughts that come. You're
Of
like,
course.
okay, I don't have the same, because sometimes I feel like, oh my God, like I wish I appreciated what I did at the start because, and yeah.
But you should.
Yeah, I do now.
And you will.
Yeah.
But that's called growing up.
Yeah, again, lie down on
Yes.
What is the one thing that you learned about success that was like unexpected in a good way or a bad way?
So I'll tell you what I've learned about success is just not from my life, but from lives of many people around me. Success is really a bitch and not loyal at all. Okay? So don't think it's there forever. So it's taken me a long time again. I appreciate it. I feel blessed, but I'm also mentally prepared that tomorrow it may just go. So
This too shall pass.
sorry, this too shall pass. Also with bad times. I've had I mean, I had a restaurant which didn't work, the first restaurant. I had 4 years in London where I don't think I've ever worked so hard in my life. I opened Diva. People only talk about the successful restaurants we've had. We have had more failures and closures of restaurants than the restaurants we have had. So it's actually been a very, very tough journey as well for me. It's never been easy. Twice I nearly went bankrupt in period of Diva and then during pandemic. But one thing I knew, even this bad times, it can't last forever.
How do you bring yourself back from a point where you're feeling really, where you feel like you're...
have you seen those plastic clowns?
Yeah.
Those things
Where
you punch them and they come
back.
right back. So that's me. That's me. No, I have to admit, the pandemic time, I had a lot of support from my partner. And it was also an acceptance after a point, what I said before. I've done my best. I can control what's in my situation, what I can control. What I cannot control, I leave it to destiny. I'm a believer of destiny as well. We can do all that we want.
Yeah.
But at the end, there is some higher power which plays such a game that you don't know where it'll end up. So success, as I said, is good whilst you're there, darling. But when you're gone, I think I'll survive.
And you've done so much. There's books, there's TV shows, there's restaurants. Over the next couple of years, what are some of the things that you feel that you want to focus your energy on and some things that you definitely don't want to do?
Okay. So my focus right now is, and I hope it works, is I think it's time to give back to the society. I've taken a lot over the years in terms of money, fame, success, failures, everything. But I think each one of us also need to give back. We all talk about it, but we don't do much about it. At the moment, the project we have in hand is LGBTQ Center, which will first open in Delhi and the second one in Goa, because I already have a piece of land for it. Because the law has changed, but unfortunately, till there's no education at home level, starting at home, you will be shocked by the number of young people who get thrown out by their own families, who are on the street, who get bullied, who get raped, who get beaten up. So that will not change in our society and it'll be a long way. Whether we like it or not, it's not going to happen overnight. If it happens in my lifetime, I'll be grateful. So what we really need is also a place where they can have some sort of a safety net, where they can get the psychological help they need. Because you see, the biggest problem when you discover your sexuality is not what the society will think or what your parents will think. It will be your own fight within yourself because you wonder what the hell is wrong with you. You wonder what's wrong with you. And you have no one to talk to. So you need to have a safe place where you can meet like-minded people, where you can understand that there's nothing wrong with you, where you can get some sort of a path to move forward. And second thing, and the same thing, what we want to do is give them skill sets.
Nice.
You see, because what happens is the biggest thing you need to overcome anything is confidence. Where does confidence come from? Financial independence. I can give you education for next 12 years. I'll make you into a graduate and maybe you'll get a job of a secretary. You get a skill set, whether it's podcasting, whether it's media, whether it's cooking, whether it's graphic designing, and you will be sure of getting a decent job with a decent money coming in. So this is a project we have in hand right now. So this is something which is a big part of my focus. And what am I planning to do in terms of restaurants and books and other things? I'm a hypocrite. So that's a wrong question. Someone asked me 15 years ago, will you ever write a book? And I said, chefs who don't do work write books. Okay.
Burn.
Then someone asked me in 2006.
Will you be on TV?
Will you be on TV? I said, chefs who have nothing else and they have low self-esteem, they go on TV because they need
Chef,
to.
will you start a podcast?
So as I said, I'm a bloody hypocrite. Okay, everything I say I will not do, I do it. So I'm zipping it up.
So I'm seeding this idea of a podcast by you. We need it. We need one. Okay, my last question for you. It's what would be your no sugarcoat realization that you had while working in the industry that you learned the hard way? Something that came to you the hard way.
Yes. I'm very grateful to my guests who eat with us. But unfortunately, this country they have zero sensitivity towards the people in the hospitality industry. And it is shameful, it is painful to see it. And I really hope one day they realize that people who work in this industry for them are not at home with their families. They get paid shit money to just make sure they have a good evening. And it is almost disgusting to see how we still have a mentality towards the people in this industry.
So people listening to this or watching this,
be nicer to the waiters who's serving you. Be a little bit more sensitive towards the chef who's cooking for you. Maybe he's just having a really, really bad day. And as I said, they all are putting their entire life on hold just to make your evening. So little sensitivity and a little word of appreciation will go a long way for them.
Thank you so much.
My
that was
pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much for being here with me.
My pleasure. You are fabulous. And what's your no sugarcoat, Pooja?
Oh my God. This will really take 5 hours. No, I'll tell you. So one of the best advice that I got from a friend in culinary school, much older than me. And I asked him, I said, Henry, if you had to give me, you're so much older than me, what is the advice that you would give me? And he looked at me and he said, pee when you can.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, thanks. He's like, no, I don't. He's like, literally also.
Yeah.
But when life hands you an opportunity, just grab it.
Yes.
And I feel like for most of my life and career, I think overthinking kills a lot of dreams and fear kills a lot of dreams. So just pee when you can.
All your fears gone or not?
Oh, aate rehta hai. That's
okay. Fix an appointment for our therapy session. All right.
But thank you so much.
My pleasure. Really, really nice. Now, can I have some sugar?
Yes. I hope you liked that episode. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel. For audio episodes, subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.